The message arrived on a busy Tuesday morning at the Galactic Mercenary Guild headquarters. Daeho was drinking his morning coffee when the job alert flashed on his screen. His eyes went wide when he saw the number of credits being offered. "Bora, come look at this," he called to his second-in-command. Bora walked over and looked at the screen. She whistled low. "That's a lot of money, Captain." "What's the job?" Daeho read the contract details aloud. 4 human soldiers stole important technology from a research lab on Kepler 442b. The Veltari Trade Consortium wants them brought back alive. "Dead is also acceptable. Humans?" Bora raised an eyebrow. "That seems easy enough. They're not very strong compared to most species." The contract showed pictures of the targets. Sergeant First Class Taemin Park looked like a normal human male in his 30s. Corporal Jin Woo Kim seemed younger, maybe 25. Specialist Soo-Jin Lee was a human female with short black hair. Private First Class Hyun-Sik Choi appeared to be the youngest of the group. "They look ordinary," Daeho said. "Standard military uniforms, basic weapons. Nothing special about them." Bora pulled up their service records. All 4 are listed as special operations. "Elite soldiers," it says here. "Elite human soldiers," Daeho laughed. "How elite can they be? Humans are weak, slow, and their technology is decades behind ours." The captain of the Crimson Talons mercenary company had been hunting bounties for 15 years. He had captured dangerous criminals from dozens of different planets. His crew of 12 fighters was well-trained and well-equipped. They had never failed to complete a contract. "Should I accept the job?" Bora asked. "Wait," Daeho said. "Let me check with some of the other captains first. A bounty this big usually has a catch." He walked across the guild hall to where Captain Sang-hoon was sitting. Sang-hoon was an old mercenary who had been hunting bounties for over 40 years. His species, the Karathi, were known for their strength and fighting skills. If anyone knew about dangerous contracts, it would be him. "Sang-hoon," Daeho said, sitting down. "I want to ask you about a contract." The older captain looked up from his meal. "What kind of contract?" 4 human special operations soldiers. "Big bounty. The Veltari want them for stealing some technology." Sang-hoon's expression changed immediately. His face became serious, almost worried. "Human special operations?" "Yes, why? Is there a problem?" Sang-hoon put down his fork and looked directly at Daeho. "Young captain, I'm going to give you some advice. Don't take that contract, and why not? They're just humans." "Just humans," Sang-hoon repeated slowly. "How many human military units have you fought against?" Daeho thought about it. "None, actually. I've captured human criminals before, but never soldiers." "That's what I thought." Sang-hoon leaned back in his chair. "Let me ask around the guild. See who else has experience with human military." Sang-hoon stood up and walked to different tables around the hall. Daeho watched as he talked to various mercenary captains. Each conversation was short, but Daeho noticed something strange. Every captain Sang-hoon talked to had the same reaction. First surprise, then concern, then they would shake their heads. After 20 minutes, Sang-hoon returned. "I talked to 8 different captains from 6 different species. All of them said the same thing. What did they say?" "Don't take the contract. Human special operations are different." Daeho was getting frustrated. "Different how?" "They're smaller than us, weaker than us, and their weapons are not as advanced as ours." "What makes them so special?" Sang-hoon was quiet for a long moment. "I can't explain it properly. It's something you have to see to understand. But I've been doing this job for 4 decades, and I've learned to trust my instincts. My instincts tell me that human special forces are dangerous in ways that don't show up in their files." "That doesn't make sense," Daeho said. "Look at their equipment list. Basic rifles, standard body armor, simple explosives. My team has plasma weapons, energy shields, and military-grade combat suits. We outnumber them 3 to 1. "Numbers don't always matter," Sang-hoon said quietly. Daeho stood up, feeling annoyed. "I think you're all being too careful. Maybe human special forces were dangerous 50 years ago. But times have changed. Technology has improved. My crew is better trained and better equipped than any humans," Sang-hoon sighed. "If you're going to do this, at least research them properly first. Don't go in blind." "Of course I'll research them," Daeho said. "I'm not stupid." But as he walked back to his table, Daeho had already made up his mind. The bounty was too big to pass up. His crew needed the money, and how dangerous could 4 humans really be? Bora looked up as he approached. "What did Sang-hoon say?" "He thinks we shouldn't take the job. Says human special operations are too dangerous." "Do you believe him?" Daeho looked at the contract again. The amount of credits being offered could buy them a new ship, better weapons, and fund their operations for 2 years. I think he's being overly cautious. We've faced worse odds before. So we're taking the job? We're taking the job, Daeho confirmed. But we'll do it smart. Full preparation, complete intelligence gathering, and we'll bring our best equipment. Bo-Ra smiled. Should I tell the crew? Tell them to get ready for the biggest payday of their careers. As Bo-Ra walked away to gather the team, Daeho looked around the guild hall one more time. Several other captains were watching him. None of them looked happy about his decision. Daeho ignored their stares. He had been underestimated before, and had always proven the doubters wrong. This time would be no different. 4 humans against 12 experienced mercenaries? The odds were clearly in his favor. What could possibly go wrong? 3 days later, Daeho's ship, the Red Hunter, was flying toward the Kepler system. The crew was excited about the big payday waiting for them. 12 of the best mercenaries credits could buy, all equipped with the latest alien technology. Bo-Ra was at the navigation station, tracking the humans' last known location. They were spotted on Mining Station 7 on Kepler 442b's moon, she reported. The station was abandoned 5 years ago after the mining company went bankrupt. Daeho nodded. Perfect place to hide. No civilians, no security forces, and plenty of places to set up a temporary base. In the cargo hold, the rest of the crew was preparing their equipment. Hyunji was cleaning her sniper rifle, a Veltari Mark 9 that could punch through 6 inches of steel from 2 miles away. Dong-hyun was checking his explosive charges, enough firepower to level a city block. Narration was testing her electronic warfare gear, designed to hack any computer system in the galaxy. Captain, called out Young-ho, one of the assault specialists. What do we know about these humans? Daeho pulled up the target files on the main screen. Sergeant Park is the leader. Military record shows he's been a soldier for 12 years. Jinwoo Kim is a demolitions expert. Soo-Jin Lee specializes in communications and intelligence. Hyun-Sik Choi is listed as a combat medic. They sound normal, said Mi-young, the team's heavy weapons specialist. I don't understand why everyone at the guild was so worried. Because they've never fought humans before, Daeho replied. They're scared of the unknown. But we've done our research. We know their capabilities, their weapons, and their limitations. The ship's computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Captain Sang-hoon. Daeho, I'm sending you some files about human military tactics. Please read them before you engage. And remember, if things go wrong, retreat immediately. Your pride isn't worth your life. Daeho deleted the message without reading the attached files. Old fool, he muttered. Bo-Ra looked at him with concern. Maybe we should look at those files. We don't need them, Daeho said firmly. We have all the information we need. 6 hours later, they arrived at the mining station. It was a large complex built into the side of a mountain, with dozens of tunnels and processing facilities. The perfect place for a small group to hide, but also the perfect place for a larger group to corner them. Life sign scans show 4 humans inside the main complex. Narration reported from her station. They're about 2 miles deep in the mountain. Weapon scans? Basic human military equipment. Assault rifles, some explosives, standard body armor. Nothing that should trouble us. Daeho smiled. Excellent. They're trapped in there with limited supplies and nowhere to run. This will be easier than I thought. The crew suited up in their combat gear. Each mercenary wore powered armor that increased their strength and speed while protecting them from most weapons. Their plasma rifles could melt through steel walls, and their energy shields could stop anything the humans might throw at them. Remember, Daeho told his team as they prepared to leave the ship, we want them alive if possible. Dead if necessary, but be careful not to damage the stolen technology. They landed at the main entrance to the mining complex. The huge metal doors were sealed shut, but Dong-hyun's explosives made quick work of them. The blast echoed through the empty corridors like thunder. That should let them know we're here, Young-ho joked. The team moved into the complex in standard formation. Yoonji took position on a high platform where she could watch the corridors. The assault team advanced carefully, checking each room and tunnel. The first hour went smoothly. They cleared the outer sections of the complex without seeing any signs of the humans. The corridors were dark and filled with old mining equipment, but their armor's sensors made it easy to navigate. This is almost too easy, Mi-young said over the comm system. Don't get overconfident, Daeho warned. They're probably waiting deeper in the complex. As they moved further into the mountain, something began to feel wrong. The corridors seemed too quiet, too empty. Occasionally, they would find signs that someone had been there recently. A food container, some equipment, footprints in the dust. But no humans. "Captain," Yunji's voice came over the radio. "I'm seeing movement in the lower levels, but I can't get a clear shot." "They're staying out of sight." "Keep watching," Daeho replied. "They can't hide forever." The team continued deeper into the complex. The mining tunnels branched out in dozens of directions, creating a maze of passages and chambers. Daeho began to understand why the humans had chosen this place. It would be easy to get lost in here. "Nare, are you still tracking their life signs?" "Yes, sir. They're about half a mile ahead of us, but the signals keep moving. It's like they're trying to stay ahead of us." "Good, that means they're running scared." "Keep pushing forward." But as they advanced, strange things began to happen. Doors that should have been open were sealed shut, forcing them to take longer routes. Corridors that looked safe suddenly had debris blocking the path. Equipment that should have worked perfectly began to malfunction in small ways. "My rifle's targeting system is acting up," reported Jae-sung, one of the assault specialists. "My armor's power reading is fluctuating," added Kyung-soo. "Probably interference from the old mining equipment," Daeho said. "Keep moving." 2 hours into the mission, they finally made contact with the enemy. Hyunsik Choi appeared at the end of a long corridor just for a moment, before disappearing around a corner. "Target spotted," Young-ho shouted. "Moving to intercept." The assault team charged down the corridor, but when they reached the corner, Choi was gone. "The passage split into 3 directions. Which way did he go?" Daeho demanded. I don't know," Young-ho admitted. "He just vanished." They spent 20 minutes searching the area but found nothing except more empty corridors. It was as if the human had simply disappeared into the walls. "This is getting ridiculous," Mi-young complained. "How can one human outrun 12 of us?" "He knows the layout better than we do," Bora pointed out. "He's had time to study this place." "Then we'll flush them out," Daeho decided. "Dong-hyun, seal off the main exits with your explosives. Nare, cut power to the life support systems. Force them to come to us." But when Dong-hyun reached the exits, he found they were already sealed. Massive steel barriers had been lowered, blocking every way out. "Captain," Dong-hyun's voice was worried. "The exits are already blocked." "And these barriers? They're not part of the original mining station. Someone installed them recently." A cold feeling crept up Daeho's spine. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we're not hunting them, Captain. They're hunting us." The lights went out. Not all at once, but slowly, section by section. The mercenaries watched as the corridor behind them fell into darkness. Then the one to their left, then their right. Soon only the area directly around them remained lit. "Nare," Daeho called urgently. "What's happening to the power?" "I don't know," came her worried reply. "Someone else is controlling the electrical systems. They're cutting power to everything except where we're standing." "Can you stop them?" "I'm trying. But they're using the mining station's own computer system against us. Whoever is doing this knows these systems better than I do." Yunji's voice crackled over the radio from her sniper position. "Captain, I just lost visual contact with the assault team. The lights in the lower level just went out." "Switch to night vision," Daeho ordered. "Already did. But there's something wrong with the air down there. It's full of dust or smoke. I can barely see 30 feet. In the darkness below, something was happening. The humans were moving, but not like people running away. They were moving like hunters who knew exactly where their prey would be." Young-ho was the first to notice the sound. A soft scraping noise like metal on stone, coming from somewhere in the darkness ahead. "Did you hear that?" he whispered into his comm. Before anyone could answer, the scraping sound came again, this time from behind them. "There's someone moving in the dark," Jae-sung reported. "But I can't see them on my sensors." "Stay together," Daeho ordered. "Form a defensive circle. They can't attack all of us at once." But the humans weren't planning to attack all of them at once. They had learned long ago that the best way to defeat a superior force was to divide it and pick off the pieces one by one. The first trap was simple but effective. Kyung-soo, who was watching the rear, stepped on what looked like solid ground. The metal plate gave way, and he fell 15 feet into a maintenance pit that had been carefully prepared. The fall didn't hurt him badly thanks to his armor, but when he tried to climb out, he found the walls were too smooth and too high. "Kyung-soo is down," he reported over the radio. "I'm trapped in some kind of pit. Can you get out?" Daeho asked. "Not without help. Someone will have to lower a rope. But before they could organize a rescue, Mi Young screamed. Something had grabbed her from the darkness and pulled her into a side corridor. The others heard the sound of a struggle, then silence. Mi Young, report, Daeho shouted. No answer. Someone go after her, he ordered. Young Ho and Jae Sung moved into the corridor where she had disappeared. Their lights showed signs of a struggle, scuff marks on the floor, a piece of armor plating, but no Mi Young. She's gone, Young Ho reported, his voice shaking. But there's no body. It's like she just vanished. The truth was worse than they imagined. Mi Young was alive but unconscious, dragged away by Private Choi using techniques he had learned in special operations training. She was tied up in a hidden room, her weapons taken, her armor disabled. She would survive, but she was out of the fight. The psychological effect on the remaining mercenaries was exactly what Sergeant Park had planned. Fear began to spread through the group like a disease. This is impossible, Dong-hyun muttered. They're just humans. How are they doing this? Yoonji's voice came over the radio, tight with worry. Captain, I'm seeing movement all around the complex. They're not running from us anymore. They're surrounding us. How many of them are there? Daeho demanded. Still just 4, according to the life sign scanners. But they're moving through the station like they own it. The next attack came from above. Specialist Soo-jin Lee had spent hours preparing the ceiling of the main corridor. When the mercenaries passed underneath, she triggered a carefully placed charge that brought down tons of mining equipment and debris. The mercenaries' armor protected them from serious injury. But the falling debris separated them into 2 groups. Daeho, Bora, and Naray were on one side of the collapse. The other 5 mercenaries were trapped on the other side. Can anyone hear me? Daeho called over the radio. Static answered him. The debris was blocking their communications. We need to dig through this, Bora said, looking at the pile of twisted metal and stone. That will take hours, Narai pointed out, and will be exposed while we work. From the other side of the debris, they could hear the sound of plasma fire and shouting. Their teammates were under attack, but there was no way to help them. What they couldn't see was Corporal Jin-woo Kim's masterpiece. He had turned the mining station's own industrial equipment into weapons. Conveyor belts became traps that carried unwary mercenaries into dead ends. Ore crushers were reprogrammed to activate when someone passed nearby. Even the ventilation system had been turned against the invaders, filling certain areas with choking dust while keeping others clear for the humans to move through. One by one, the mercenaries on the far side of the collapse were picked off, not killed but neutralized, captured, disarmed, and removed from the fight. The humans used non-lethal tactics when possible, but they were absolutely ruthless in their efficiency. Dong-hyun was caught in a snare trap that left him hanging upside down from the ceiling, his weapons fallen to the floor below. Jae-sung was trapped in a room when the doors sealed shut, and the oxygen was slowly pumped out. He passed out before he could break through the reinforced barriers. Young-ho lasted the longest. He had military training of his own and recognized that he was being hunted. But even his experience couldn't match the tactical knowledge of human special operations. When he finally encountered Sergeant Park face-to-face in a narrow corridor, the fight was over in seconds. Park's movement was like nothing Young-ho had ever seen, fluid, precise, and completely without mercy. On the other side of the collapse, Daeho and his remaining team members heard the fighting stop. "Hello?" Daeho called out. "Anyone there?" Sergeant Park's voice answered, calm and professional. "Your friends are alive but unconscious. You have 2 choices, mercenary. Surrender now or join them." "You're surrounded," Daeho shouted back. "There are 3 of us and only 4 of you." Park's laughter echoed through the corridors. "You still don't understand, do you? You're not hunting us. You never were. From the moment you entered this station, you've been walking through our trap." The lights around Daeho, Bora, and Nare suddenly went out, leaving them in complete darkness. "We know these tunnels like our own homes." Park's voice continued from somewhere in the black. "We've had days to prepare. Every corridor, every room, every piece of equipment has been turned into part of our defense. We have superior weapons," Bora said, but her voice lacked confidence. "Superior weapons don't matter if you can't see your target," came Choi's voice from a different direction. "And inferior weapons can be very effective when used properly." Nare was frantically trying to restore power or communications, but every system she tried to access had been locked out or sabotaged. "Captain," she whispered, "we need to leave, now." But when they tried to retreat the way they had come, They found their path blocked by another carefully placed barrier. They were trapped in a small section of corridor with no way out except forward, deeper into the human trap. "What do you want?" Daeho called out to the darkness. "We want you to leave," Sergeant Park replied. "Go back to your ship and forget you ever saw us." "We can't do that. We have a contract." "Your contract is based on lies," Su Jin Lee's voice said. "We didn't steal anything. We were sent here to rescue prisoners and gather evidence of war crimes. Your employers are the real criminals." The last thing Daeho remembered was a small object flying out of the darkness and releasing a cloud of sleeping gas. As his consciousness faded, he realized that Captain Sang-hoon had been right all along. Some contracts weren't worth the credits. Daeho woke up inside his own ship. His head felt like someone had hit it with a hammer, and his mouth tasted like metal. He was lying on the floor of the cargo hold, his weapons and armor gone. "Captain?" Bora's weak voice came from nearby. "Are you awake?" Daeho sat up slowly, fighting off waves of dizziness. Bora and Nare were sitting against the wall, looking as confused and beaten as he felt. Around them, the rest of his crew was either unconscious or just starting to wake up. "What happened?" he asked. "The humans," Nare said quietly. "They knocked us all out with some kind of gas. When I woke up, I was here." Daeho looked around the cargo hold. All of his mercenaries were there, alive but defeated. Their expensive equipment was stacked neatly in one corner. Weapons, armor, and gear worth more than most people made in a lifetime. "How long were we out?" "About 6 hours, Bora replied, checking her watch. "The ship's computer shows we're still orbiting the mining station." A message was waiting on the main communications console. It was from Sergeant Park. "Mercenaries of the Red Hunter, you are alive because we chose to let you live. Your weapons and equipment have been returned to your ship. You will leave this system immediately and never return. Any attempt to contact your employers or report our location will result in consequences you will not enjoy. Consider this your only warning." Daeho stared at the message for a long time. His pride wanted him to go back, to fight again, to prove that he wasn't beaten by 4 humans. But his survival instincts were stronger than his pride. "Set course for the nearest space station," he told Bora. 3 days later, they docked at Frontier Station Alpha. Daeho's crew was quiet and subdued. Word of their defeat had somehow reached the station before they did. Other mercenaries looked at them with a mixture of pity and curiosity. Daeho found Captain Sang-hoon in the station's bar, drinking alone. "I heard about your mission," Sang-hoon said without looking up. "All 12 of you came back alive. That's more than most groups manage when they go after human special operations." "They humiliated us," Daeho said, sitting down across from the older captain. "They made us look like children playing soldier." "That's what they do," Sang-hoon replied. "Humans don't fight the way other species fight. They think differently. I don't understand. We had better weapons, better armor, superior numbers. How did 4 humans defeat 12 experienced mercenaries?" Sang-hoon was quiet for a moment, staring into his drink. "Let me tell you about the human integration wars. It was 30 years ago when humans first joined the Galactic Council. Some species thought humans were weak and tried to conquer their colonies. I remember reading about that. The wars lasted 3 years. Do you know why they lasted so long? It should have been over in months. Humans had fewer ships, older weapons, smaller armies. Every military expert in the galaxy predicted they would surrender quickly." Daeho shook his head. "The humans didn't fight like other species fight," Sang-hoon continued. "When we attacked their military bases, they abandoned them and disappeared into the civilian population. When we occupied their cities, they turned every building into a fortress. When we tried to negotiate, they made demands that seemed impossible." "What kind of demands?" "Complete withdrawal from all human territory. No tribute payments. No military bases on human worlds. Most species would ask for terms that let them keep some dignity while accepting defeat. Humans demanded total victory or total war." Sang-hoon took a long drink before continuing. "I was a young officer then, serving in the Karathi 3rd Fleet. We were ordered to capture a human supply depot on a planet called New Tokyo. Intelligence said it was guarded by maybe 50 human soldiers. What happened? We sent 200 warriors to take the depot. The humans had turned the entire area into a kill zone. Every building, every street, every piece of cover had been prepared for defense. Our warriors were picked off one by enemies they couldn't see." Daeho was starting to understand. "How many humans were actually there?" 8. 8 human special forces soldiers held off 200 Karathi warriors for 3 days. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found the humans had escaped through tunnels they had dug under the depot. But not before destroying everything we came to capture. The old captain's voice became distant with memory. That's when I began to understand what makes humans different. Other species fight with strength or technology or superior numbers. Humans fight with their minds. They turn their weaknesses into strengths and use their enemies' advantages against them. But we studied them. Deho protested. We knew their capabilities. No, you knew their equipment specifications. You knew their official training records. You knew what they looked like on paper. But you didn't understand what they really are. Sang-hoon leaned forward. Human special operations soldiers aren't just trained to fight. They're trained to think like their enemies, to adapt to any situation, to use anything as a weapon. Give them a mining station and they'll turn it into a fortress. Give them industrial equipment and they'll turn it into traps. Give them time to prepare and they'll turn your own strengths against you. The Veltari must have known this when they posted the contract, Deho realized. Of course they knew. That's why the bounty was so big. They were hoping some young, arrogant mercenary would be greedy enough to try it. Deho felt sick. They used us. They used you to try to eliminate witnesses to their crimes. The humans told you the truth. They weren't thieves. They were sent to rescue prisoners and gather evidence of illegal experiments. How do you know this? Sang-hoon pulled out a datapad and showed it to Deho. It contained official military communications between the human government and the Galactic Council. The humans filed a formal complaint about Veltari war crimes 6 months ago. The Council authorized a special operations mission to investigate. Sergeant Park and his team are operating under legal authority. Deho stared at the documents. We were the criminals. You were tools. The Veltari couldn't attack the humans directly without starting a war with the human government, so they hired mercenaries to do their dirty work. Why didn't anyone tell me this at the guild? Because most people don't know. The Veltari have influence and money. They can bury information when they need to. Sang-hoon put the datapad away. But experienced mercenaries learn to recognize these situations. That's why we tried to warn you. Deho thought about his crew, about how close they had all come to dying in those dark tunnels. What should I do now? Learn from this. Spread the word among younger mercenaries. Make sure they understand that some contracts are traps. And if someone else tries to go after human special operations? Sang-hoon's expression was grim. Then you stop them. By force if necessary. The mercenary community has an unwritten rule. We don't let our own people walk into certain death. Over the following weeks, Deho began to understand the full scope of what had happened to him. Other mercenaries shared their own stories about encounters with human military forces. All of the stories had the same ending: defeat, humiliation, and a grudging respect for human tactical abilities. He learned about the Battle of Kepler Station, where 12 human Marines held off an entire pirate fleet for 8 hours. He heard about the rescue at Titan Colony, where a human special forces team extracted 200 hostages from a heavily fortified terrorist base without losing a single civilian. Most importantly, he learned about the unspoken agreement among experienced mercenaries. No one took contracts against human special operations. The risk was too high, the chances of success too low, and the moral implications too complicated. We're killers and thieves, one old mercenary explained to him. But we're not stupid killers and thieves. We know which fights we can win and which fights will get us killed. Deho's respect for his former enemies grew with each story he heard. The 4 humans who had defeated his entire crew weren't just soldiers. They were artists of war, masters of tactics that other species couldn't even comprehend. He began to rebuild his crew and his reputation, but with a new understanding of the galaxy's true power structure. Humans might appear weak individually, but collectively they were one of the most dangerous species in known space. And human special operations soldiers were the most dangerous of all. 2 years had passed since Deho's encounter with the human special operations team. He had rebuilt his mercenary crew and taken dozens of successful contracts, but he never forgot the lesson he learned in those dark mining tunnels. The Galactic Mercenary Guild was buzzing with activity when he arrived for the monthly captain's meeting. Representatives from over 50 different species filled the Great Hall, discussing jobs, sharing intelligence, and trading stories. Captain Sang-hoon called the meeting to order. He had been elected as the Guild Council chairman the previous year, and his experience was respected by mercenaries throughout the galaxy. We have an important matter to discuss today, Sang-hoon announced. The Guild Council has been reviewing our policies regarding certain types of contracts. Dae-ho knew what this was about. Over the past 2 years, more and more young mercenaries had attempted to take contracts against human special operations teams. The results were always the same: defeat, capture, or in a few tragic cases, death. Captain Kexra of the Zilani Hive Fleet will present the Security Committee's findings, Sang-hoon continued. Kexra, an insectoid warrior whose species was known for their strategic thinking, stepped forward. Her forearms held data pads containing reports from across the galaxy. In the past 24 months, we have recorded 47 attempts by Guild members to capture or eliminate human special operations personnel. She began in her clicking musical voice. Of these attempts, 0 were successful. 31 resulted in capture of the mercenary teams. 12 resulted in complete mission failure with mercenary teams escaping. 4 resulted in the death of Guild members. A murmur went through the hall. Even the most experienced captains were surprised by these numbers. Kexra continued. The human special operations community appears to have developed increasingly sophisticated countermeasures against mercenary activities. They are sharing intelligence, coordinating responses, and in some cases actively hunting mercenary teams that threaten their personnel. What kind of countermeasures? Asked Captain Vorth, a crystalline being whose species was known for their military engineering. Psychological warfare, environmental manipulation, and what humans call asymmetric tactics, Kexra replied. They do not fight using conventional military doctrine. Instead, they adapt their methods to exploit the specific weaknesses of each mercenary team. Dae-ho stood up. May I share my experience, Chairman Sang-hoon? Please do, Captain Dae-ho. Your encounter is well documented in our files. Dae-ho walked to the center of the hall. 2 years of successful missions had restored his confidence, but he still remembered every detail of his defeat. 2 years ago, I took a contract against 4 human special operations soldiers. My team of 12 mercenaries had superior weapons, advanced armor, and tactical training. We outnumbered them 3 to 1, and we had detailed intelligence about their capabilities. The hall was completely quiet now. Everyone knew this story, but hearing it directly from the survivor always had impact. The humans turned our advantages into disadvantages. Our superior numbers meant we were easier to track. Our advanced weapons meant we depended on technology they could sabotage. Our tactical training meant we followed predictable patterns they could anticipate. How did they defeat you? Asked a young captain from the back of the hall. They made the environment itself our enemy. Every corridor became a trap. Every piece of equipment became a weapon. Every shadow became a hiding place. But most importantly, they made us afraid. Dae-ho looked around the hall, making eye contact with as many captains as possible. Fear is a weapon, and humans understand fear better than any species I know. They didn't just defeat us physically, they defeated us mentally. What would you do differently if you faced them again? Asked Captain Myran, a veteran warrior from the Outer Rim. I wouldn't face them again, Dae-ho replied without hesitation, because I learned that some fights cannot be won, no matter how much you prepare. Captain Sang-hoon stepped forward. The Guild Council has prepared a formal policy recommendation based on these findings. A holographic display appeared above the hall, showing the text of the proposed policy. Effective immediately, the Galactic Mercenary Guild will no longer accept contracts targeting human special operations personnel. Any existing contracts of this type will be terminated. Guild members who attempt to take such contracts independently will face suspension of their guild privileges. The reaction was mixed. Some of the older captains nodded in agreement, but many of the younger ones looked unhappy. This is discrimination, protested Captain Junseo, a human mercenary whose own species was affected by the policy. You're saying humans are too dangerous for us to fight. We're saying human special operations soldiers are too dangerous, Captain Sang-hoon corrected. There's a difference between regular human military and special forces. But the bounties are so large, argued another young captain. We could retire on a single contract. Dae-ho laughed, but there was no humor in it. The bounties are large because the people posting them know you will fail. They're paying you to die, not to succeed. The debate continued for hours. Some captains shared their own encounters with human military forces. Others argued that the guild was being too cautious, but gradually a consensus emerged. The final vote was overwhelming. 41 captains voted in favor of the policy, 6 voted against, and 3 abstained. The policy is adopted, Sang-hoon announced. All contracts targeting human special operations personnel are hereby prohibited. As the meeting broke up, Dae-ho noticed a young mercenary approaching the job board. The alien, a member of a species Dae-ho didn't recognize, was looking at the contract postings with hungry eyes. Dae-ho walked over and saw what had caught the young mercenary's attention. A new posting had appeared while they were in the meeting. Wanted, Human Special Operations Team. Last seen in the outer colonies. Extremely dangerous. Reward, 2,000 credits. Contact consortium agent for details. The bounty was twice as large as the one Dae-ho had attempted 2 years ago. The young mercenary reached for the contract posting, but Dae-ho's hand stopped him. Don't, Dae-ho said quietly. Why not? The money could set me up for life. The money could get you killed. You're just scared because you failed, the young mercenary said, trying to push past Dae-ho. Dae-ho grabbed the younger alien's arm. I'm scared because I survived. There's a difference. Let me go. This is my choice. Dae-ho looked at the young face, remembering his own arrogance from 2 years ago. What's your name? Captain Woo-jin of the Star Hunters. Captain Woo-jin, how many years have you been hunting bounties? 3 years, and I've never failed a contract. Neither had I, Dae-ho replied, until I met Human Special Operations. He released Woo-jin's arm, but didn't move away from the job board. Tell me about your crew. 8 specialists, all experienced fighters. We have the best equipment money can buy. I had 12 specialists and better equipment. It didn't matter. Woo-jin's confidence was starting to waver. What exactly happened out there? They turned us into prey, Dae-ho said simply. We thought we were hunting them, but from the moment we entered their territory, we were walking into a trap they had spent days preparing. But you survived. They let us survive. That's the important detail. We lived because they chose to let us live. If they had wanted us dead, we would have died in those tunnels. Woo-jin stared at the contract posting. The money. Trust me, kid, Dae-ho said, using the same words Captain Sang-hoon had once said to him. Some prey hunts back. Woo-jin stood there for a long moment, torn between greed and caution. Finally, he stepped away from the job board. Maybe you're right, he said. I am right. Find easier contracts. Build your reputation. Learn the business properly. But stay away from human special operations. As Woo-jin walked away, Dae-ho removed the contract posting and tore it up. Other guild captains around the hall were doing the same thing with similar postings. Captain Sang-hoon approached. How many is that today? 5 contracts posted, 5 contracts destroyed, Dae-ho replied. Word is getting out. The people who post these contracts are getting desperate. Good. Maybe they'll stop wasting their money and our people's lives. Dae-ho looked around the guild hall at all the mercenaries from dozens of different worlds. Warriors, killers, thieves, and adventurers, all united by their respect for profit and their understanding of power. But they had all learned the same lesson he had learned 2 years ago in those dark mining tunnels. In a galaxy full of dangerous species and deadly enemies, human special operations soldiers occupied a unique position. They were the hunters that other hunters refused to hunt, and that reputation had been earned through blood, sweat, and the tactical brilliance that made humanity one of the most feared species in the galaxy, despite their physical limitations. The message was clear to anyone smart enough to listen. Some contracts weren't worth taking, some enemies weren't worth making, and some prey was too dangerous to hunt. The humans had taught the mercenary community a lesson they would never forget.